Hello and welcome to OLA 2022. Thank you so much for joining us in this session. My name is Calantha Tillotson. I am the Assistant Professor and Social Sciences Librarian at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, formerly of East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma. And today we're going to be talking about making an open information literacy textbook, a case study in OER collaborations among 4 academic librarians. And here are my fellow academic librarians.
Hi there, I'm Adam Brennan. I'm a reference and instruction librarian at Tulsa Community College. And with me today is...
I'm Jamie Holmes. I'm a reference and instruction librarian also at Tulsa Community College, but I'm at the Southeast campus. And last but not least...
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Burkhead-Whittle, and I'm a research and instruction librarian at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. Thank you all for joining us today.
I imagine you wouldn't be in this session if you didn't know what OERs are. However, we don't want to assume. So we're going to make sure we're all on the same page in our understanding of what exactly we mean when we say OER. One of the most commonly used definitions comes from UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. They define OER as teaching, learning, and research materials in any medium, digital or otherwise, that reside in the public domain or have been released under an open license that permits no-cost access, use, adaptation, and redistribution by others with no or very limited restrictions.
So before we did anything else today, we wanted to make sure that you had access to the textbook that we all built and that we'll be discussing. So we have 2 different ways that you can do that. You can go ahead and use the URL that we have on my right, or you can use the QR code. So I'm just going to give you a second to be able to do that.
So our story began in October of 2020 during the virtual Oklahoma OER Summit, and Jamie will talk more about this in a minute. But Calantha and I both attended one of these Zoom breakout sessions during this summit, and it was led by Dr. Alicia Baker of the NSU Broken Arrow campus in the College of Ed. And as the session ended, she opened a Google Jamboard, and that's the screen you have in front of you here. And she prompted us to list why we were there and what we hope to learn out of that session. So in the center of the screen, there's a blue sticky note that you can see, and it was written by Calantha. And she wrote, as an instruction librarian, I want to see how I could create an information literacy textbook. And I saw this and I replied in the Zoom chat that was going on simultaneously with the Google Jamboard being what we were seeing. And I said that I would also be interested in creating something like this. So I believe it was Dr. Baker that put that yellow sticky note where you see the arrow in the middle of the screen. And she added that the folks interested in working together on this were Calantha Tillotson from ECU and Sarah Burkhead-Whittle from NSU. And so that was how we began. And the rest we are going to be sharing more about with you today. So Calantha, I think you have a few more words to share about the OER Summit, right?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So first off, I just wanted to mention that this is a prime example of why you attend workshops and you attend conferences. Sarah, I had known of Sarah before, and we had kind of circled around each other at various, I think, like the OLA conferences, that kind of stuff. But we had never actually worked on a project. And so having not just me saying, hey, this is something I'm interested in, but having Sarah and the other members of this team go ahead and say, hey, I'm also interested in this. Let's do this together. Let's collaborate. Like all of that happens because we take those opportunities. And so I know we'll talk about this later, but make sure you take these opportunities when they come.
So yeah, I've been working with OER here at TCC and with others throughout the state in a few different organizations, I think since 2015. COLE, which is the Council of Online Learning Excellence, it was established in 2015 or 2016, and I've been primarily involved with the OER subgroup of that, and then more recently with the Online Consortium of Oklahoma, which is the OCO. That's the group that sponsored the summit. So as an organizer of the summit, I knew one of our goals was for this to happen. We really wanted to get people in a room together who had some interest and actually connect people who wanted to put together projects like this. And so when I saw these notes, I felt like I hit the jackpot, and that's how the whole thing started.
My involvement is because of Jamie Holmes. At one of our monthly library meetings here at Tulsa Community College, Jamie Holmes had put out an open invitation for anybody who was interested in working on an OER project. At the time, I was working on information literacy modules for our courseware management system. And I thought that the synergy between something like an OER textbook and those modules would go really well together. And I was very excited to come on board.
I'd like to start out with a very top level look at how we spent our year. The summit was at the very end of October, as Sarah said, and it took a minute for me to get it started. I'd say we started our planning phase in December. We spent January and February exploring, just trying to discover what was out there, what was already done and available for us to maybe adapt. The bulk of our time, March through June, is when we were building and actually creating the book. July through October was our reviewing and evaluating phase. November was all about sharing our work and applying to conferences to share our work. And then now we are we're sharing and implementing the book. As project lead, my work started as soon as the summit was over. I reached out to Sarah and Calantha to make sure they really were on board and serious. And then I got the approval from OCO, which is the organization that funds Pressbooks, which is the platform that we used to build the book. I used my own networks to solicit additional volunteers. So I reached out through Cole and OCO and OKACRL, and then of course with my colleagues here at TCC, and that's Adam talked about how he got signed up. And when we actually started our project, we had a fifth member. Her work situation changed and she ended up having to step back her involvement. We met twice in December, and two of the big important things that we did during that month of planning were creating a project charter and setting expectations. I'd like to focus on three big lessons that I learned that can hopefully help others who want to take on a project like this. So defining the work, I think, was very important. There are probably a lot of people who wouldn't think twice about creating a project charter, but for a handful of reasons, I'm not one of them. I'm not much of a planner, and I'm not much of a fan of writing my monthly reports and recording my stats. I feel like I'm so busy doing what I'm doing, I don't have time to think about planning it or recording it. The truth is, though, this project has made me change my mind and my outlook about that. One of the most important things we did at the very beginning was to define our work, and the project charter really helped us to do that. I just found a generic project charter template in Word, and I thought it fit fairly well with what we needed to do. We took some time to think about exactly what we wanted to accomplish, in what time frame we wanted to accomplish it, and even a little bit about how we would accomplish it. And that really helped us get going. And it provided us with the structure we needed to keep going, even when various times throughout the project, it felt like we were all over the place. The second big lesson that I learned about this, or learned from doing this project, is how important it is to discuss and agree on expectations. And that is expectations in a couple of different ways. So what we would need to give in terms of time and effort, and then what we hoped to get from that time and effort spent. This helped ensure no one was overwhelmed, nobody was surprised, and it really did help who was our original fifth team member, who ended up stepping back and serving as a subject matter reviewer. It helped her make an informed decision about whether or not the time was right for her to participate in a project of this scope. The last thing that I want to share as far as planning lessons go is more of a technical issue. I really want to not get too far into creating or adapting a book or a resource like this without first identifying the different instructional design elements that you're wanting to use, and then assigning visual attributes to them. What I mean by that is placing all of our chapter objectives in a blue box and organizing them as a bulleted list, using a thin black border around featured quotes or callouts within our chapters. Figuring those out, defining them, assigning them at the very beginning, I think would have saved a lot of time at the end.
Alrighty, I'm going to speak for a moment or two about our exploration process of this, broken into two parts, seeking and compiling. We had started looking for ideas for an information literacy textbook by canvassing existing OER resources that we had had access to at the time. One such resource that we had utilized was the Pressbooks directory. Jamie Holmes set up a search for materials under information literacy in December of 2020, January of 2021, around there, and we'll make that search and that directory available to you folks as part of this presentation. We started a planning document to collect content based off of, basically at the time we were chasing our general interest areas. And between the decision of either creating original content from the ground up or cloning an existing material and working off of that, our initial seeking process involved the assumption that we were basically going to compile together many of our lessons that we had been gathering over the years, stuff that we had taught in the classrooms, and mix that with OER, existing OER that we had found that we liked, to create an original product from the ground up. And that's kind of the assumptions that we had made while we were going in and seeking this. At the time, while we were doing our seeking, we were looking for things that were liberally licensed. We wanted to make sure that we had stuff that we were able to remix and share as well. We quickly found ourselves being overwhelmed by the amount of content that was out there. And as we began our planning document, which we'll also provide access to, you'll notice that everything in the kitchen sink is kind of in that document. We want to do it all. In fact, very quickly, we figured out that we probably had 2, maybe even 3 volumes here going on. But as we began scouring around and looking, something happened. In March of 2021, a colleague of ours at Tulsa Community College had discovered a newly published OER information literacy textbook that we positively fell in love with. This book was called Introduction to College Research by Butler, Sargent, and Smith. And it was at that time that we had made the decision to switch from building something from the ground up, including all original structure, to cloning a book and then kind of Frankensteining together the parts that we had discovered during our exploration process that we liked, and with our original content material, and just building on an existing work right there. So our takeaways from this stage of the process was, one is the OER landscape is constantly changing and constantly evolving. Never stop looking. When we had started this project, I believe we were treating it very much like a sort of a traditional research assignment where you undergo a period of literature review, and then once you have all of your material compiled, that's when you begin the original work. And as it turns out, kind of the one resource that we really fell in love with didn't even come along until after most of our initial exploration process was over. So constantly go back, constantly look, because you never know what might be out there. You might also want to be aware of what sort of licensing rights are available in these various OER products that you might be canvassing, and just kind of maintain a general awareness of what those rights are and what you can remix and maybe what you can't. And if you do decide, if you can decide relatively early on, we could have saved ourselves a lot of trouble, heartache, and all that good stuff if we had kind of made a decision a little bit earlier about whether or not we were going to clone or whether or not we were going to go all original. Eventually we got there, and I wouldn't trade our experience for anything. But as a takeaway, that's a conversation that you might want to have early on as opposed to later.
So building off of what Jamie and Adam have already mentioned, like, I'm so thankful that we're looking at this step by step, because really for us looking back, sometimes it feels like it wasn't step by step, because especially as Adam was talking about needing to go back, like we had compiled all of these things, like we had them good to go. Like I was very proud of my chapters. And then we all got together and were like, no, actually, maybe we should just start completely over from scratch. And that was like 3 months in. So that was a very difficult decision, but I'm so thankful now looking back that we were able to do that. And that's where these creating steps are really important. So I cannot tell you how much reviewing we did. It just felt like, and especially once we go on to evaluating, that's part of our project too. You'll see it's just review upon review upon review. And part of this, I think, is because of the fact that we're all information professionals who are creating this. So one of the, I guess, free parts that it gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of openness of OER is the fact that you get to make all these decisions. These are not decisions that are being put on you by a publishing house or by whatever format you're moving forward with. Like we were able to say, no, this doesn't meet what we want. We're going to go this direction. And we were all able to make that decision together. So reviewing was really key. Like we were able to go out, look at everything that was already there, decide what we wanted to keep, what we didn't. And then we moved forward to the revision part. So there's a lot of our text that because of the fact that we were taking a text that was built, mixing and matching, and then we were making it Oklahoma specific. So a lot of the revision was going through and making sure that all of the examples were geared towards the current events that were happening in Oklahoma. I can say for even some of my chapters, I talk about the Tiger King, for example. That'll never get old, right? Like that'll always be there. And so that was part of the revision. And then also making sure that as we were bringing in, say, photographs and not just the examples, but other chapters from other books, that we were citing all of them properly. Because of course, again, information professionals, that's what we do, we cite things. And then the last part was definitely writing. I think I was probably the person who did the most original material in my chapters. And that was because from the beginning, I was like, I want to bring in all Mike Caulfield stuff because I'm doing the evaluation chapters. And so I really appreciate the fact that I had that freedom, that all my teammates trusted me. None of them were like, why are you thinking you can improve on this? They were always like, of course, yeah, if you want to go in another direction, please go with it. And so again, that's part of the freedom, part of the creative process that I really appreciate when it comes to open access. So the main takeaways that I took from this, one was, you got to be thorough, but you got to stay flexible. So for me, I tend to be a rather anxious personality. So I want to get things done. I'm going to be persistent till the end. I'm going to make list upon list upon list. So when I was, doing the bird's eye view at the beginning and gathering everything I wanted for these 2 chapters that I was going to be creating, having suddenly like the door slammed and we were like, okay, no, we're just going to start from scratch. I remember just having this moment where I was like, no, guys, no, like I was so a little devastated that I had to be like, okay, I get what we're saying. We can do this. So that flexibility, even if it's just within your own brain, is really important. And that's why you got a team. They keep you on your toes. The other thing that I really enjoyed doing that I hadn't done before was using H5P. So this isn't just in Pressbooks. I mean, this is the functionality that I know can be embedded in a lot of other places. But I was so glad that it wasn't like the very beginning, but our discussions on like what we wanted to do to make sure that this textbook was our own, like what were the elements that were important to add. Jamie kind of introduced us to H5P, and then Sarah and I were like, let's run with it. So every single, except for the very introduction part of the chapter and the very end, the conclusion with the citations and everything, all of the other pieces you'll notice have some kind of like quiz element or some kind of interaction at the end. All of that is H5P. And I do want to just do a shout out for Sarah because I was trying to learn H5P. I was like, there was lots of like trial and error involved with me. And so I just needed like a buddy who's going to cheer me on and like brainstorm with me. And so the wonderful Sarah was like, yeah, of course, let's just like hang out on Zoom for a couple hours and let's figure this out together. And that immensely helped me because I was getting a little overwhelmed with it. So find your H5P buddy and you'll be able to get through it too. And then the last one is, I don't know why it can't just be me. Maybe it's just because I was an English major and then I was, then I went on to become an information professional. And so I take citing sources so important. And we definitely cited all our sources, but the idea of taking somebody else's work and remixing it felt like I was being a thief. I felt like a freaking pirate. I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this right now, guys. And so if I can have anything I say today be a takeaway, you are not being a pirate by mixing and matching. That is like the very baseline of what OER is supposed to be. So have fun with it. Wear a patch if you want to. Like just have a blast because it really is fun when you get into it.
All right, I would like to talk a little bit about evaluating and the steps that we went through there. It was primarily comprised of editing, so surface editing and making sure that your spelling and grammar and punctuation and all of that is right, but also then revising based on what feedback we got from our content subject matter expert content reviewers. So July through October, we were scrutinizing, we were editing, we were revising. I will be honest with you, excuse me, there was a good deal of panic on my part. Toward the end of June, I was about to go on vacation, and I really had miscalculated. I felt like a miscalculation in the timeline on my part was going to make it impossible to meet the deadline that we had set for ourselves within our project charter. But then again, looking back at that project charter sort of put my mind at ease. We could still meet our deadline of ready for use in fall of 2021 because our charter did not specify the beginning of fall. And so I let that, comfort me a little bit. And so the mistake that I made in the original planning of the timeline is that I didn't consider all of the different reviews that were going to be needed on the work. The content needs to be final in order to have somebody surface edit. I mean, why have somebody waste their time, really scrutinizing every word and whatnot, if a content reviewer might suggest that you totally redo that whole paragraph. So it seemed to us like it would make sense to have the content where we wanted it first, and then send it off to the reviewer or to the copy editor. And then, of course, the accessibility review should be the very last thing that you do. And I didn't consider all of those at the very beginning. So the other thing I think that I really learned from this in terms of project management is recruit more people than you think you're going to need. The first editor we had thought that we had in place, situations changed, our timeline changed a little bit, which made her unable to do what she had said she could do. And so I had to kind of scramble to find a backup content or copy editor. And so just recruit more helpers. People would prefer you say, thank you, but I think we're actually good and we don't need you to drop everything else you're doing and work on this. They would rather hear that than, hey, I have this emergency and I really need you to take on this project. The other thing, the last lesson that I would give with regard to sending your book off to other people for review, make sure that you've checked all the links in your book, particularly if you've cloned like we did. So what happened was some of the content from our cloned book, we didn't change. And so a link within a chapter of our book ended up taking one of our reviewers into the original book. And she didn't realize it. It had the same look and feel. She didn't realize that she was then in a completely different book than ours. And so some of the feedback that she gave was not relevant. It wasted her time. And it wasn't helpful to us because that was material that we had taken out of our book anyway, if that makes any sense. So that would be a sort of a technical thing that I would recommend that you be careful of.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, so once we went through those many cycles of revision, which I'm so glad that we were able to do because it made me feel much more confident in the work that I did before we actually published it. And so that's what we did, right? The next step was, okay, we made this awesome thing. We want to get it out to everybody who might find it useful. So the first thing, we definitely wanted to do that publishing, make that call, and do whatever finalization needs to happen to make that happen. But then the next thing was actually being able to do marketing, which I had a blast figuring out. So all these people will tell you that I am kind of an amateur graphic designer. I have so much fun. I was able to make the actual cover for our book that we did, and then some of the marketing materials I was able to do. And so what I would say, it's not on these lesson learns, but what I would say is make sure that you have someone who's actually interested in doing the design work, or use the resources that you have, your network that you have, because if you don't enjoy doing that kind of work, you're not probably going to make the best results. So yeah, make sure that you have someone who's willing to be like, no, let's try this color of purple. No, let's try this color of purple, just for like hours on end, because it'll fill them with delight, and then you don't have to worry about it. So then the 3 lessons that I would say be the major ones for sharing. So the first one is, as I mentioned before, I'm a rather I guess detailed person when it just my personality, but also the work that I do. Shout out Sarah, she and I both do these things together. But that's why you need a team, because when it comes to knowing when to publish it, knowing when to say, okay, we've gone through like 10 rounds of revision, you guys have done real good work, now it's time to send it out into the world, let it fly the nest. And so knowing when to press that button, that's why I needed someone like Jamie, and that's why I needed Adam, that's why I needed Sarah's to finally say, okay, we're not going to be perfect, we've gotten as close as we can, let's move forward. But then the other thing is, remember your audience. So you can't share this with everybody in the universe. I mean, that's technically what the internet does, right? But you need to make sure that you're being very focused in whatever marketing plan you have. So it was really helpful, because Jamie is so involved at the state level with OCO. And so she was able to say, okay, well, here are the people, here are the listservs we can send it out to. Adam, I know he definitely had his own group of people that he wanted to send it to. Sarah did as well. I did as well. And so part of it was still kind of a soft share sometimes at the beginning, but I think we're going to just continue. I'm hoping this is a ripple effect. That's what OERs are supposed to be. Once one person adapts it, and then it can be sent on to the next person. And so just remember who this is actually for. The other thing is, be prepared to brag. So I tend to be someone who really loves to talk. But when it comes time to actually saying, hey guys, look at me, I did this really awesome thing, sometimes I get a little bashful. So just remember that when you're promoting something that you created, especially if you promote it with an awesome team like I have here, that you are talking yourself up. You're talking up the product. You're talking up the people that you worked with, and in a truly authentic way. So all of those were really important for me. And I'm definitely taking those, hopefully I'll take those skills into the future with me.
So this brings us to the present, and I get to share a little bit more about the ways that we are implementing our book through opportunities to teach and to present our content like we're doing today, and a little bit beyond. All right, next slide, perfect. So some of the lessons that we learned, the first is to set an attainable plan. And Jamie had mentioned this a little while ago about we were reaching our finish line in early fall in that October timeframe a few months ago. And our previous work that we had done, I knew personally that this was going to align really well with the class that I was going to be teaching in the fall semester here at NSU. And the class is called LIBM 4611. And it is a library media class through the College of Education. And librarians like myself typically are the ones that teach this as an adjunct through the College of Ed. And it works out well because I'm the librarian for the College of Ed on our Tahlequah campus. But it just so happened that it was my turn, my rotation to teach our class. And the name of the class is called Introduction to Online Research, or Intro to Online Research. And the timing of this, again, it aligned perfectly with the rollout for our book, because our 4611 class, that's probably what I'll be calling it, the numerical value for the course catalog of 4611, this information literacy class, it was going to be taking place the second 8 weeks of our fall term. So it was opening in mid-October and running through December at the end of the semester. The class is completely online. We are a Blackboard campus, so all the course materials were available in Blackboard. There's no textbook required for the class. And so I incorporated links from our OER into the class folders, the existing content that we already had for our class. And out of the 8-week class, I was able to add content for 5 of the folders. And the class is paced where each folder releases 1 week at a time. So there's conversation and dialogue and discussion boards and blogs and interaction that the students have asynchronously with one another and with myself. And so it keeps them focused rather than like some classes where it's open and they can do the work as fast as they want. We have a paced class. So this allowed us to be able to work our way through content, looking at research tasks, evaluating information, that sort of thing. So some of the units that I used from our OER book into our class here at NSU include the information cycle, types of information sources, finding materials in your library, and disinformation. And again, adding to what we already had been using for many years in our online class. So that was a part of our attainable plan, and rolling this out for it to be a teaching opportunity. And it was primed and ready for me to use that with a group of students in our class here at NSU. So my students for this test pilot group, we had 21 students enrolled at the beginning of that term in October. We had 18 that finished. Honestly, I hadn't even thought about at the time when we were, looking to roll this out to apply for an IRB through our IRB committee. So I can't really share anything ethically with you all with student feedback. But what I can share are the survey questions that we use at the end of the semester to solicit student feedback and to see what they thought of the class. And again, very anonymous and not required. This is not for a grade. The class is for a grade, but the survey and the feedback were not for a grade. And so I'll be linking that to the end of our materials, as well as our other follow-up documents that you'll get for this presentation that we have for you today. And so that survey will be in the presentation materials. But a couple of the questions that I'll just share with you really briefly that we asked of our students were about approximately how much money do you think that you've saved by utilizing the Insiders, the title of our book. And so we know that one of the great features of OER is that it is a cost savings measure to our students, and their feedback varied on how much they thought they saved. So we were just trying to get an approximate dollar amount of how much they thought the book would be worth to them and how much that would have saved them from instead of having to buy it like many other textbooks. And one of the other questions, the second that I'll share with you, is something that goes back to what Calantha talked about, the H5P, that interactive element. So we asked them, I found the auto-graded exercises, or the H5P, at the end of many chapters easy to answer if I read or watched the material. So we really wanted to see, yes, they'd read content or we had embedded videos. Hopefully you'll check out our book and see what you think and test drive it and let us know what you think of everything. But that was one of the questions that I asked the students as well. And those survey questions, the four of us collaborated on those. And that leads me into my second bullet point here, involving and welcoming others. So besides the four of us, myself included, I wanted to be able to solicit feedback from my colleagues here at NSU. And so this was something that kind of like Calantha talking about cheating and reusing and remixing content. I asked my colleagues here at NSU, I said, so I'm teaching this class. Is it cheating for me to use this textbook that I helped co-author in a class that I'm teaching? And they said, no, that's totally fine for you to do that. So it felt a little, not underhanded, but I'd never done that before. And I didn't want to have an ulterior motive to blindside the students, but this was something that we feel very passionate about, the work that we've done and the content being great. So I asked feedback from them on looking at the material, finding out how it would fit well with our class. And also I had an assistant teacher, a new librarian that we'd hired recently, and she was co-piloting with me, and she's now going to be teaching the class in our spring semester. So wanting her to be familiar with the layout of the class, incorporating our book in a new, for everybody, for it to be a new incorporation in the class, and then for her to feel comfortable teaching the class and incorporating it this spring. So that was a way that I was welcoming some others, our students, as well as some colleagues. And like Calantha mentioned, we have started sharing this with different listservs. Our OK ACRL, our Association of College and Research Libraries here in Oklahoma, our subgroup that ties in with that COIL, the Community of Oklahoma Instruction Librarians. And then our OCALD group, that are our Oklahoma College Library Directors. I'm forgetting all the acronym completely, but a lot of our groups that fit more with our academic libraries. We've shared that with them through those different listservs. And then we've also started sharing it internally with our different groups at our different colleges and universities. So that's a way that we're starting to welcome and be, as Calantha was saying, bragging about what we're doing. Lastly, being on the lookout for new opportunities. So we shared our success story one full year from where we began with our OER Summit in October of 2020. We shared in December of 2021 our success story of where we began at that point and then where we are now. And so that was our 1 year update on how things were going. And so we were really excited about that presentation opportunity. And then we're going to be sharing with our OLA in-person conference. We know this is a part of the virtual conference, but we are going to be sharing in person on Thursday, March 10th. So that's going to be another opportunity to expand with our OLA audience and have that coming up as well. And lastly, we are looking at expanding what we have done from our initial publication of this into creating a part 2, possibly adding to what we've done so far for upper division students or graduate students and looking for more refined ways to add to the content we've already created.
So looking at this whole project, what is it that we would do again? And I'll kick us off. One thing that I would absolutely do again on this project, if I could travel back through time, maybe with a TARDIS or something like that, and just do it all over again, is collaborate with others. This project has been enriched by multiple points of view, and the team had expertise levels to accommodate all creator skill levels. I'll freely admit that I wasn't an expert in OER when this was started. And the truth is, you don't have to be an expert in OER to contribute a valuable product. Don't let inexperience to OER be a barrier. Just collaborate with others and the experience will follow.
One thing that I would absolutely do again is something that I thought might be a little bit risky at the beginning. I knew Adam and I knew Sarah quite well. I think maybe I had met Calantha once before, and I'm not even sure if it was in person. We didn't know each other very well as a whole group. And in our first meeting, an agenda item that I set was to have an honest conversation about our own individual weaknesses and our own individual strengths. And it's definitely, it makes you vulnerable to have to identify a weakness and share it out with people that don't know you very well. But it really, I think it benefited our group in multiple ways. The most important probably for me is it gave me the opportunity to stop apologizing. I let everybody know how I approach work from the very beginning, which is not necessarily one of my strengths, but them knowing that from the outset and accepting that about me, I think made it so that I didn't have to apologize all the time. I felt like they knew I was going to get the work done. It might not look the same way as it did for them, but that I think benefited us a lot.
Well, and I would just like to say, I'm so glad that Jamie had that as like the project leader, like this is how she wanted to start us off, because along with sort of the verbalization and the literally we're codifying in our project charter, our expectations of each other and of ourselves and of the project as a whole, it went a long way to building trust, I think, between us, because like Jamie mentioned, I actually don't think all four of us have ever been in the same physical space. And so, or if we have, it was like 5 years ago or something, and none of us remember. And so there was a lot of getting to know each other, getting to feel out, like if I had an issue, if something popped up, who is the person that I would need to reach out to in the group? I think the other thing that was really great is the fact that once we had built that trust, we were able to be honest with each other about the challenges we were facing. I know that there were a couple of times, I mean, granted, we were doing this project during a pandemic. So there's so much like sort of macro stuff that was happening, shifts in our day-to-day jobs that made adding on something like this even more of a challenge. And so I was so thankful that we were all very flexible. We were very kind to each other. I mean, you know, just a few months ago, I was moving across the country and starting a new job. And so the fact that I knew this team had my back, I knew that they wouldn't like frown on me for not getting something done when I first said that I would, just because I had this big shift in my life. And so I think supporting each other was really important. And part of that was also supporting like exploration in these combined powers. Like I honestly think that the fact that we were able to accomplish this thing, given all of the things going on in our world, that says a lot about the fact that we were able to support each other, and we all have these skill sets, and we were able to make it fun too. Like it wasn't just a chore. It was something where we're able to truly say, oh, this is something I never thought I would enjoy, but now I enjoy it. And so I would highly recommend, if anybody's looking for a collaborative partner, I would highly recommend all these people who are presenting with me today.
And last but not least, like Calantha mentioned, we had never all been in the same place at the same time, pandemic or not. We knew that this was something that we could achieve through online communication, and we relied on that and valued it, knowing that that was a tremendous benefit to us. And so as we were working, we appreciated the powers and the miracle of technology and being able to use those tools to work on 4 different campuses at 3 different institutions and different libraries. And so knowing that one of the things that we're going to be sharing with you all is this very colorful Google Doc, and knowing that we were able to track changes and have things divvied up and be able to avoid redundancy by different methods using Google Docs, email, a lot of Zoom, and Pressbooks, that ultimate platform where we were able to actually get the work done and that you'll be able to see as our end result. So that's something that I would definitely do again, is to rely on things that we already had at our fingertips and to be able to use those to, again, great benefit for a wonderful end result that we're sharing with you today.
So there are a number of resources that we would recommend for you if this is something that you're wanting to undertake yourself. To be clear, you don't have to write a whole book to create an OER. An open educational resource can be anything that is used for teaching or for learning. And so you can start small. But we definitely want to end the session tossing the ball back into your hands to start thinking a little bit about what might be your next steps. But we wanted to sort of let you know what we're sharing with you in terms of tools and resources, so that you'd have something to sort of think about as you're thinking about your next steps. So the first thing that I want to make sure you know is that some OER leaders in our state have created a textbook as well as a micro course called OER Basics and Beyond. And that's on the OCO website. If you're viewing this as a PDF, the link will be live. It will be shared. The link will be shared out in the resources that we're sharing. And basically, it would just be educating yourself on OER so that you more completely understand what it is and how it's used. The other thing that we want to share with you is there are a lot of repositories out there, but here in Oklahoma, we have the benefit of Pressbooks. And one of the best things about Pressbooks is the ability to clone other OERs or other materials that are already on Pressbooks. And the best way to find those, of course, is to use the Pressbooks directory, which is one of, as I said, a number of repositories. But if you search the Pressbooks directory directly, then all the results that you see will be, ideally on topic, and they'll also be on that platform. We're going to share our very earliest document, our earliest planning document with you. It's a compilation of ideas. It's, as Sarah mentioned earlier, colorful, color-coded. And so we basically kind of just started making a list of what we'd want to cover. That's one way that you can start. The other thing that fourth resource there, the Open OCO, that is information about Pressbooks and about the Online Consortium of Oklahoma. And it includes a list of people at various institutions throughout Oklahoma that are involved in OER in some way. And so ideally, you could look at that list and see who at your institution you might connect with in order to get started. And of course, if all else fails, the next 2 slides in, I think, will be our contact information, and you can totally reach out to us as well to have a conversation about getting started. And then the last thing there that we'll share is the survey that Sarah mentioned that was created, and that's just a way to think about evaluating an OER. And honestly, sometimes the best way to get started with OER is to go out there, find it, and evaluate it. So at this point, we would ask you to think for a minute or two, after viewing this webinar, what are your next steps? Kalantha, I think, maybe has more to say about that.
Oh, no, that was basically it, Jamie. I was just going to say, take a minute, pause the video right now, and really, look at our last slide, look at our conference page. We're going to have links to all of these resources, and just figure out, you don't have to have a grand vision. It doesn't, like Jamie mentioned, it doesn't have to be, I am going to create a textbook from scratch. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It can be gathering this knowledge, gathering these skills, trying things out. And so I just take a minute, pause, and make like 1 or 2. These are the next things that I'm going to be doing to learn more about OER.
All right, that concludes our session. Thank you so much for joining us at OLA 2022. Please remember to complete a session evaluation in the OLA Conference app or on the OLA Conference website, and we hope that you will join us for many more conference sessions. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.